This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's episode of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Adam the Jock Straczynski. On today's show, this WWE star returned, but never really returned, as well as a possible major injury at a house show last Sunday. Going to take a look at that, as well as an update on a major SummerSlam match. We've got all of that. We're going to take a look at the haps with AEW. We're going to take a look at a big week for WWE. Doing it with me, as always, jumping into the deep end of the pool. He's the one. He's the only. He is the Doc, John Macaroon. What's up, cuz?
Man, I can't wait to record this podcast. Always enjoy the weekends when we get a chance to recap everything that went down. Lots of sports entertainment on Dynamite. The two shows that AEW are featuring are really different, and now you're starting to see some differentiation between the shows. Blood and Guts delivered. There was so much to talk about, and we're not even talking about Slammiversary on Impact and WWE and the evolution now of the feud between Jey and Roman. There's so much to get into with Raw, SmackDown, everything going on in the world of wrestling. AEW, Cody Rhodes got a new documentary coming out. There's just so much going on. And now we're not even talking about the dirt sheets and all the drama that's behind the scenes that happens every week. I can't wait. What are we jumping off this podcast with?
You know, you brought it up, and I did not tease it, but I think we should maybe start with Slammiversary. Slammiversary and Impact held a show in Windsor last weekend. It was a really, really good show. I know you took it in. I want to know what impressed you most about this show, and I'd like to get a little bit of your review about it. And I think we can start right there, and then we can work our way into WWE and AEW if you're cool with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Impact has been steadily doing good work in regards to signing talent, evolving storylines, getting national attention, utilizing the veterans that have been in this business for a long time. I think Bully Ray being in Impact and doing the work that he does with promos and his ideas, you can see the impact that he is actually having. And then it's always fun, too, when you get a little bit of a Detroit tie. Darren McCarty loves professional wrestling, and he got into one of the biggest angles in the company at Slammiversary. And I think it was cool because I think that when you have a good surprise that was teased and people were kind of excited about, Eric Young returned to partner with Scott D'Amore in the matchup with Bully Ray, and it was amazing. Darren McCarty was the special enforcer. He gets in the mix, and in totality, it was just a great wrestling show in regards to everything that was put together. And unfortunately, it's just Impact doing the show at Windsor. It has the feel, because of the sound and the acoustics, of just a really big house show, and it just, for Slammiversary, it is their WrestleMania for Impact. But you realize there's some real legitimate stars that have been there. Nick Aldis in the main event, competing for the Impact World title against Alex Shelley, who has been known for his tag team prowess. But, man, they've pushed him to the moon, and he looks like a legitimate world champion. And I just thought that for using Nick Aldis in his short run at Impact, it was perfect to put over Alex Shelley and to move forward. So the main event was excellent. Check out the Alex Shelley versus Nick Aldis match. Lots of title match changes. Leo Rush, who's made like 6 appearances at AEW and 6 different debuts, now is at Impact. And I think he's actually finally, after some failed runs at WWE, stop and starts at AEW for whatever reason, now is the X Division champion, and he put on a good match. And I think I think that's where you got to credit WWE when we say, oh, just throw all these people into the main roster. There's something to be said for getting reps over and over and over, and not just for like 6 months, but for a year, 2 years. And that's why a guy like LA Knight, when you see what a big star he is now, it's just because he's gotten those reps at Impact, reps at NXT, doing it in a way that will produce a lot of success. And so you realize maybe a Leo Rush would be one of those dudes that would really benefit from a developmental type system over and over and over and over again. And now at Impact, becoming a champion, I think, is going to be really spectacular. And under the radar match that, if you like, professional, Frankie Kazarian, Eddie Edwards was a good match with Eddie Edwards going over. I thought a sneaky good match as well that highlights what Impact has been doing well, has been giving the women a lot of time. And Dina Perazzo really had a nice matchup with Trinity becoming the new women's champion. And it was a good match. People were into it. And you had two performers that had real chemistry and were able to go back and forth and really let the crowd know what they were about. And I think the crowd really understood what the deal was. Now, the beginning of the show, like always, kind of a little bit slow, and it's okay, with a 6-person tag match. If you want to pass through the early part of the card, it's okay. But you still had some good matches early on with Joe Hendry taking on Kenny King for the digital title. You had the Ultimate X match. So it had everything you wanted. If you just want a niche show where you can enjoy wrestling, I thought it was great. But I think, like a lot of cards, you want to pace it correctly. And early on, it kind of eased into everything. But my God, I would grade it an A-. It was just really spectacular wrestling, the storytelling. And you can tell that Tommy Dreamer, Bully Ray, the producers backstage, those that have been in Impact, working with the talent, it's resonating. Things have purpose. Every match has psychology. Every match has some kind of reason and evolution of a story or evolution of a match within the match. So I loved it. I thought it was good. I know Kenny loved it. I think that watching it live and then checking it out again, just different matches at different times throughout the week. Slammiversary is the show that Impact kind of bounces the next year off of. And with this, oh my goodness, Darren McCarty helped put Bully Ray through the table. It's always great because Darren's, known as the enforcer, and to see him loving wrestling, being that it's local, it was in Windsor, and they did tapings and kind of furthered stories, I thought was great. And I think that you're starting to see that, hey, you know what? Nick Aldis, that guy can be somebody that can go into the system and be something at WWE. Lots of good talent have cut their chops at Impact. And if you get a chance to watch a niche show, check out Slammiversary. It's always fun to see how their main event, their main show of the year kicks off.
Yeah, Slammiversary is like their WrestleMania. So it is their big show of the year. Like you said, it's the one that they kind of base the rest of the year off of. And I think with Impact, they've got a lot of really good things going for them, right? You talk about Bully Ray. You talk about bringing in a pseudo-celebrity and a guy like Darren McCarty. You've got a guy like Tommy Dreamer. There's a good brain trust between Bully Ray and Tommy Dreamer for putting matches together, laying them out. These guys have worked everywhere. These guys have done everything. They're a good brain trust for putting matches together, laying things out, and making sure the spot or the moment is utilized correctly. And if you listen to Bully Ray talk ever, there's a lot of times where he talks about guys who get over and guys who are getting put over. And sometimes you can go out in a match and you can break your neck and bust your balls and do everything you got to do, and you can put on a great show and you can lose. So you're not actually being put over, but you can still get over, and that is important. Trying to get everybody in the room over is always important. If Impact had a bit of a better TV deal,
yeah,
I think they would definitely rival the other two wrestling organizations because they do such good work and there is such good talent there. But their television deal just kind of hamstrings them a little bit and kind of keeps them stuck in this place of a third where they don't really get to challenge AEW and they don't get to really challenge WWE.
And I want to tell you this, though.
Otherwise,
I want to tell you this, too,
yeah.
where you said when you hear Bully Ray speak, the reason you can get some inside info is Bully Ray and Tommy Dreamer are part of Busted Open. So you can get a little bit more insight into what they think about Impact and what they do behind the scenes because they openly share it. I think Wednesdays and certain days, it's Bully Ray and Tommy that sit together for 2 hours. They call it the Fat and the Furious, where the two rip on each other and they talk about the old-time stories and they talk about what they are thinking in Impact and why certain things happen. So it's really like a real good additional piece of knowledge that you can take when you watch wrestling when you're like, oh, why'd this happen? Tommy Dreamer and Bully Ray are going to tell you.
They also have a podcast called The Masters Class, which is great, where they kind of break down little nuances of wrestling. So again, if you want more information, you can get some more stuff there. Really fantastic show. Really good job. I think WWE did a really good job this week as well. And I want to jump into the WWE end of the pool now. Look, I thought Raw was dominated by the ladies. This is something we don't usually get to see. Ladies got some time to work, and I think some of the big stories coming out of Raw this week were the women. And look, you had a title change, which I think was something unexpected. You had Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green. They ended up defeating Raquel and Liv, and now they're your new tag team champs. I want to get your opinion on what you thought about this and why you think maybe this took place, because I have some ideas. But I want to throw it to you first. So what did you think about the tag team titles changing, and why do you think this is?
Yeah, it's crazy, right? You blink and there's new women's tag team champions. Well,
it's always like this. Like those
crazy.
Titles get they get no lineage. It's nuts.
Yeah, I think that maybe, in my opinion, it was a haphazard way of getting Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville over by having them defeat Raquel. I just think that Raquel's a bigger star, and the purpose is to really start to plant the seeds for a feud with Rhea. And I just think Raquel Rodriguez does not need to be a tag team participant. She's a star. She's a big-time presence, and I think it's a waste to have her in a tag team with Liv. Maybe Liv now, who has been a champion, can move forward with this. I know that obviously you kind of maybe felt that the title could change hands when Rhea beat down Raquel backstage and stuff like that. So I look at it and I say, okay, you got this situation and you got Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville, and it kind of furthers them, but it's just you needed to do a lot more to make those titles meaningful. It's just a hodgepodge of, this tag team now gets it, and hopefully Green and Deville can have this run and can hold it for just a little bit of time so that you can move forward and develop other tag teams. And it's just, I get it. I see the purpose of why I think is great for Chelsea Green. I think they do kind of have that look of a team that could stay together and be the team that starts to hold it for a little bit and put over other teams and have good matches. So I'm curious to see how it evolves. But really, for me, my eyes always go to Raquel Rodriguez because I think she's a legitimate world champion star, and she can stand across from Rhea Ripley and make her look a little bit, because of her stature, her height, and strength. She can almost make dominate and domineer look down on Rhea Ripley, which is crazy.
Yeah, I think you're right. It was to get this match for SummerSlam. It was done because they want to get Raquel versus Rhea for SummerSlam. Now, I felt like it was a little bit wonky, and I feel like you do your tag team titles a little bit of a disservice by, again, it's like you hold the titles for 2 weeks, and then we have a new tag team champ. That being said, I do think Sonya Deville and I think Chelsea Green do really good work. I think they're very entertaining. I don't have a problem with them being your tag team champs. I just don't know why we're always flipping the coin on who's going to hold these belts. And these belts, they seem as though they are a prop. They're not. It's not like it's a reward to have these belts. They're just kind of there. It's like getting the big belt buckle and you get to wear it around the house for the day. That's what these tag team championships feel like. Again, there's nothing special about them because nobody has had them for long enough. This is now our third tag team, and this is a Franken team, just like the team before it was a Franken team, just like the team before that was a Franken team. You don't have any legit women tag teams in here. You have, I think, one, and that's Katana Chance and Kaylin Carter. Like those are like your only two like legit tag teams, and they do a lot of really good stuff. But I don't know if anybody's ready to buy them as tag team champs. So you have all these Franken teams, and then you put these props on them, and then you just take them off in 2 weeks. Legitimately, from the time that you had Ronda and Sonya, or Ronda and Shayna drop those titles to Sonya and Chelsea winning them, legit, I think it was like 31 days. Like, that's how long it's been. That's not really acceptable if you're trying to make a run with a brand new belt, because this belt has never really gotten off the ground. This belt was so bad that you had Trinity, who's now in Impact, walk out. You had Mercedes Moné walk out and just leave those belts on the table. They're like, we're good. You guys don't respect us. You don't respect these belts. And that's kind of where we're at. So I think it's a little bit frustrating, but I get the storyline. I get the booking. I feel like you were kind of up against it, and this was your way out. We're going to talk a little bit about that with AEW because you've seen something similar happen with Blood and Guts. Look, I think the bigger question is, do we get a bit of a run from Sonya and Chelsea? Do they put them on them, and do they leave them on them for long term? And by long term, I mean, do they get at least a 3-month run out of these where you can add a little bit of validity to these championships? Because at this moment in time, I don't think so. Like, I find them to be very interesting. I think Sonya Deville does a great job on the microphone. I find Chelsea Green to be highly entertaining. I don't necessarily think their in-ring work is a 10 all the time. I think sometimes it fluctuates between a 6 and an 8, and you can kind of get by with that, but it's not going to really hold anybody's attention. I don't know if we get a run out of them. I don't know who the next team will be. Like I said, you really only have one legitimate women's tag team in WWE in that division. So I'm not sure where we go, but I don't even think they get a 3-month run out of this. Where are your thoughts with this? Do they get a little bit of a run? Do they get to add a little bit of lineage? Do they make these titles mean anything? Or is it just kind of putting dice in a Yahtzee cup, rolling it, and seeing what you get? Where are you at with that?
Yeah, I truly don't know. It's crazy, right? Because you would think that the ideal plan would be for Chelsea and Sonya to hold it for a while. But can you guarantee that in 2 weeks they'll hold the title? No. I think at least until Survivor Series, you would hope that this title can be emerging. And I think it's good for Sonya Green, too, because she's a believable character. She's got the nice heel persona. And Sonya Deville, I think, is just really a talented performer that also can be, I think, maybe has been underutilized on the roster. So, yes, I do think they're going to hold it for at least a month, 30 days. And you go from there and you realize, okay, now they can be the team that cheats to win. They can do the heel stuff. And maybe, like you said, probably Katana Chance's team is going to handle the business. But I got to get more into them and learn more of their story because NXT has been way down the list of things. But, obviously at the top of the card with Carmelo Hayes and other characters and stuff like that I'm interested in. But women's tag team wrestling in NXT is just not on the radar right now. But now they're on the main roster, so they'll probably get an opportunity for some run and to learn more about what they can bring to the table. But yeah, WWE needs to, at this point in time, establish that tag team belt for the women, and the team that has it can probably and most likely will succeed at doing it if they're given the right opportunities.
Something else that kind of struck me as very interesting on Raw, it's been watching Rhea Ripley and watching her growth as a performer. If you go back, I want to say it was maybe 2-3 years ago, she almost seemed like after she got beat by Charlotte, she was kind of floundering. Didn't really have a lot of direction. Her persona, her on-screen persona just kind of felt small, felt muted. Now she is a very tall girl. She's a very muscular woman. She has a presence now. And back then, you had trouble kind of seeing it, right? Like, you knew she had potential, but it was, how do we tap into that potential? I think her growth and her as a performer and her camera presence has been unreal. And I think it's been unrivaled by anybody else in this company. Look, I'm a huge fan of Becky Lynch. Charlotte Flair, whatever I feel about her, she is still one of the best to have ever done it. Bayley can control a camera and can control a spot. Sasha Banks, same way, can control a moment. I think Rhea Ripley has them all paling in comparison. I think Rhea Ripley, with her growth and where she's at right now, you could tell me Rhea Ripley was going to get into a fight with a dude on the roster, I'm picking her to win. Like, she is legitimately a badass. We talk about that China aspect of females. If you go back to when we were in the Attitude Era, when we were kids, China was a big deal. China fought dudes. She was different. That's why they called her the ninth wonder of the world. So she was different. I feel like Rhea Ripley has some of that, and I feel like the way she controls the screen, she controls a lot of the narrative. Everything around Dominic is her. It's all her. She is why Dominic is where Dominic's at. Like, Dominic's done some good work, but let's not get it twisted. If you remove Rhea Ripley from Dominic, it just doesn't work. It's just weird. It's wonky. Rhea Ripley has helped build this character of Dirty Dom, who we're going to talk about here in a second. Rhea Ripley, to me, feels like the linchpin. She feels like the connecting twine for Judgment Day. I've been so blown away and impressed by her, by the way that she has kind of ascended and the way she holds that belt, her look, her physicality in the ring, the way she can cut a promo. Even when things are going a little bit sideways, she never messes up. And if she is messing up, we don't know. She just kind of rolls with the punches. How impressive has she been? Like I said, go back 2-3 years ago when she lost that belt to Charlotte Flair. And kind of where she was there then to where she is right now. How impressed have you been? And what are your thoughts on her as a performer?
Yeah, man. When you look at it, what's next? What do you think is the next big thing? And it'll help shape my thoughts. What do you think will take her from where she's at now to even higher levels?
I really feel like she has to get into a long-term feud with somebody, and somebody of note. So Charlotte is obviously on SmackDown. I think maybe Becky Lynch could be that because, look, Becky Lynch does great work in the ring. Becky Lynch is obviously a fan favorite. I think she's got to find somebody who is on her level or near her level, and they've got to enter into a long-term feud. And then what you'll see is you'll see her blossom even more and grow even more. And then what you're going to do is you're going to put more eyes on her because she's with somebody else who is, like I said, on her level or near her level. And I think that's what she kind of needs because since her title reign has started, she hasn't really fought anybody. She's beaten up Natty like 3 times, and she's kind of like head-butted Raquel. So where are we going?
Yeah, and you know what it means? I think because sometimes you get booked into a corner because she's dominant, so the matches aren't long. So what she needs is any title holder needs a good dance partner that's believable, that can also be believable in the ring. And that's why they messed up royally with how they've handled the Natty feud. And that's why when you have somebody like Natty that's a champion, that's somebody that is experienced, you don't give them like 3 minutes in a squash because you devalue not only Natty, but you devalue Rhea a little bit too. Rhea needs a good 25-minute match where it's back and forth, a little bit of that intensity where it's somebody believable. I think that's probably going to be with Raquel. I think that's where you'll get the opportunity where you could have the Cody Seth type of situation. And it won't be maybe as classically as a wrestling match, but the physicality, what they both could do to each other. I think there's an opportunity there to start off with Rodriguez to have now the feud that will take her to the next level. You're absolutely right, and you're seeing it. She's a champion. We now know she's a champion. But now when you get to that level, Seth Rollins, every time he steps into the ring, he's making dudes just by his selling, his opportunity. I mean, we haven't seen Omos since his loss, and you still realize he had a good match with Seth Rollins. So that's what Raquel's got to do is have good matches with the people that she's in the ring with. And now the next person that's going to be believable is going to be Raquel Rodriguez. And now you build up the women and you build up the opportunities for Rhea Ripley to take the next step forward. But she's also getting some heat with the work that she's doing online, trying to support Dom. So we'll see where it goes, but I do see potential. We all see it, and I think she's going to live up to it. They just got to give her the right stuff, like you said.
Yeah, her recent video caused quite a stir, so it was quite interesting.
I would have just not blurted out. That would have been great. that would have been awesome. I would play that a couple times.
The next 2 topics, I kind of want to do some rapid fire with you. Basically, in a sentence or 2, tell me what your thoughts or what your reactions were. So sticking with Judgment Day, I want to talk about Dirty Dom. He went down to NXT. He is now the new NXT North American champion. You'll be seeing him on SmackDown. You'll be seeing him on NXT. What was your initial reaction to this?
Nuclear heat, baby. Dom lit the internet on fire. The NXT crowd was like, what? They went crazy. And you now have a heel that you can take advantage of. Let's go, Dom. And I think it's great. You love to hate him, and now you love to see him. And his work in Judgment Day has elevated his character, and now he's among the top heels. He basically has surpassed now The Miz in terms of the nuclear heat in WWE, and now he can sit there and stay at the throne and handle business.
I like that nuclear heat. That should be Dirty Dom nuclear heat.
Yes,
all day. All right, so Dom's dad, Rey Mysterio, he ended up winning the Fatal 4-Way on SmackDown to move on to the U.S. Championship Tournament. I was shocked, like I think you were shocked, that LA Knight did not win this. I went into this match thinking LA Knight was walking out of here with a shot to go on and challenge in the tournament and possibly get the United States Championship match against Austin Theory. That was not the case. Rey Mysterio ended up winning this. How surprised were you by this? And what the hell is going on with LA Knight?
I wasn't surprised because I was, expecting LA Knight to get the opportunity and then lose at SummerSlam so that the whole crowd could boo because we all wanted it. But when you read the dirt sheets, and maybe it's wrong to do it, but they're like, LA Knight's going to be pushed after SummerSlam. What the fuck? Push him during SummerSlam. It's the biggest star in your company right now that doesn't have a belt. And LA Knight is just over. He's organically made, and obviously the work that he's done at Impact and at NXT and all the stuff that he's done has put him in the position to organically get over. And you see, I don't know if it was a real tweet, but I think I saw it was Triple H or somebody posted something that said, hey, good things come to those who wait. And look, I'm tired of fucking waiting. Push the guys that we want over. And I get it. They did it with Seth Rollins, but that took time. Roman Reigns, that took time. But there has to be some level of, hey, and I think that I get it that he gets to come out with the microphone every single weekend for the pop. So that's his kind of, the company giving him gratitude and giving him his time to talk on the mic, which is precious. But what's more precious than a time when you can win a title at a big event? And I think it's so true. There's so many smart wrestling minds. And I forget, I should write this stuff down to give the credit properly. But somebody said it, and he's like, you know what? If you were just going to go with Roman and Jey, what the hell was the purpose of having Roman have the title? You could have had the Civil War with Cody winning it and Roman and Jey moving forward and tell the story without the belt. There is no, this feud has nothing to do with the belt. Nobody believes Jay's going to win it. Nobody believes that Jey is going to stand in there and pin Roman again, 1, 2, 3, one-on-one. The belt is insignificant. You could have put it at, it makes the loss at WrestleMania even worse. When you see that if that was a direction you're going to go in, then absolutely you don't need the belt. Roman does not need the belt for this story with Jey. It could have been used to enhance, Jey cost me, you guys weren't supportive enough of me, and you guys put me in such a jacked up headspace. I lost my title that I coveted. The rest of the belt now seems insignificant with this feud with Jey. So I look at it like I'm tired of waiting for the guys that are over and hot. It always seems like people get nuclear hot, right? And they love to do it with the heels. They can do all the work to get more heat. But guys like LA Knight, they're nuclear. Why not for once, hey, have him win the title before SummerSlam? And you don't think LA Knight coming out with the U.S. title against Theory at SummerSlam would be great, even if you did a little wonky thing where LA Knight gets it for 3 weeks and Austin Theory now has to do a little bit extra to get his title back. You don't think LA Knight walking into Ford Field with the United States Championship would be great? So I just think that, the whole let's wait and see approach, it gets old, especially for the finicky fans like myself.
Yeah, it is. It's frustrating, right? Because you're like, he's so white hot, let's just go. And it just feels like they're kind of pulling back and putting the reins on it, which kind of sucks. Speaking of reins and speaking of Roman, I want to get your take on the rules of engagement segment that occurred on SmackDown between Roman and Jey. Now, I think the point that you made about the championship belt not really even being important in this story, I think it's great. I think that's a fantastic observation. I think it's a really great salient point because it doesn't mean anything. And it's not necessarily a thing. I think what you've had is with the segment that occurred on SmackDown. I think again we talk about adding layers and kind of building this world that these two guys live in is what you're doing. It's good storytelling. You're building and creating this world. I think the addition of a word called tribal warfare, making that a thing, that was just plucked from thin air. They're making this a thing. And Roman's reaction to Jey saying it's tribal warfare, we don't need a contract. And Roman just kind of being I stepped in it now, I messed up. I think that was great. I think Roman being on edge and uncomfortable and overly agitated through the entire segment, I think that adds to this. I think Jey being really unsure of himself, not confident, but so full of rage that he's like a ticking time bomb. I think that makes it interesting as well. I thought this was done well. I thought this was done to really help convey a point and kind of help push this story forward. I think it did that. I think he did a really good job of that. I think more to your point, though, the championship's not needed in this. That red lay that Roman has, that's really what this is about. The WWE Undisputed Universal Championship is completely secondary. That red lay is what they are now fighting over. It's not a belt, it's a lay, which I think might get lost if you're not paying attention. And I think you did a really great job of kind of setting that up. What were your thoughts on the rule of engagement segment?
I thought it was great. I love. Part of me thought, man, could I walk into Lions Media wearing the real Chief on my shirt? I thought about it for like 4 seconds. I'm like, that would be funny if I wore the real Chief shirt into a media session. But I thought Jey rocked that well. New merch alert. The real Chief for Jey was great. I liked that Solo had an opportunity to get in the mix too, but finally got super kicked and Jey getting over. Look, I get it, but there is such a thing for a finicky wrestling fan as the law of diminishing return. I don't want Jey always looking like he's got to take a deuce or he took a deuce in the ring every time he does something. Like, I know you're trying to sell that he's conflicted and that he's shocked, but he's done that now 7 times. Like, look, do your thing and get excited. He's always got the look of like, oh, I super kicked my brother. It's so bad. I know you're trying to sell the emotion of confliction, but I think that's the wrong thing to sell. I think you need to sell it as...
It always looks like he's pouting.
Yeah, you need to sell conviction, which is, hell yeah, don't fucking step in my way. You know what I mean? You're trying to build Jey Uso as a legitimate guy, and every time he puts his hands down, he does look like a 14-year-old boy. Like, you got to have him super kick Solo and stand there and own it like you're the man. Like, don't step in my way. And then he needed to finger point at Roman and saying, you're next. Like, I feel like the emotion that I want displayed is different. Like, this, confliction that he has is annoying. And what does he need to do? Does he need to beat Roman? He's already pinned him. So I look at it psychologically and say, you need to have Jey be more convicted in his actions. Like, you've already done this before. You've already been in the main event with, you've been a tag team across the world for damn near a decade. So now you're in the main event of SummerSlam. Get your shit together and act like you belong there. Not like every time I make a move, I got to stand there and be like, oh my God, what did I do? You super kicked your brother. We all saw it. So step it up. I think that's where I was a little bit upset. Roman's just great, A+ all the time, and he like you said, set it up where it's obviously for the leadership of the bloodline, and it's going to be great to see how the match plays out. But I just wish it would have been told differently.
Look, again, I think what we have going on is good storytelling, and I'm all for that. I do get where you're coming from. It'll be interesting to kind of see how this plays out at SummerSlam. Now let's go take a dip in the AEW side. And look, last week on Collision, a lot of high praise coming out for the FTR and Golden Elite match. Look, Dave Meltzer says it was one of the greatest TV tag team matches ever, gave it 5.25 stars. Jim Cornette even gave it a thumbs up, saying it was the best AEW tag match ever. I want to know where you fall. These guys basically went through a 59-minute match, best of 3 falls. Do you agree with the high praise? Because, look, it was a bit of a banger. And if you noticed, Jay White was protected through all of this. Juice Robinson took the 2 falls for the Golden Elite. So I want to know, do you agree with all the high praise coming out for this match?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that the back and forth, the psychology, that's what people love, and that's what why they get drawn to tag team wrestling. FTR and Jay White, really, not so much the spots, it was the psychology and where certain things were at, the slowing down and the ramping up, the opportunities that they had, the really great chemistry that they had. That it just looked like these guys have been battling for years. And like I said, I mean, was I even surprised? No. Jay White's a legend. Jay White can go and wrestle tag team, triple threat, 3-man, 6-man, 8-man, whatever you need, singles. Jay White has it. And FTR, that's what probably made them real excited to be in this match and to stay in AEW, is the opportunity to have these kind of matches. Give them an hour, and that's what's up. So, yeah, absolutely. I thought it didn't drag. It felt like you were always sitting there interested in what was going on, and that's really the testament to the performers. And poor Juice Robinson, I said the same thing. It was like, well, He's going to take the losses, no doubt about it. So I was, and look, credit to Juice Robinson. The dude is getting himself over working with Jay White, and he's always been a great performer, but now he gets a little bit of love. So I thought it was great all the way around. Great match. Check it out if you haven't seen it.
The real interesting thing about this match is Juice Robinson didn't show up to the arena till about 2 o'clock Calgary time. Match kicked off at, I think, about 6. So they had about 4 hours to really kind of lay out this match. It sounds like the majority of this match, if not all of it, was called in the ring. For you to go basically 58, 59 minutes and call your entire match in the ring, that's awesome. You guys are pros, and that's really freaking great. So that's pretty awesome that the match came off as well as it did in such a high caliber without really having the ability to kind of lay things out and discuss and pre-coordinate things. All of it was done right there on the spot, and I think that's fantastic. I want to get your impressions of the MJF and Adam Cole segments. Look, there was a pre-segment and then there was a match segment, and I think it all worked well together. I think it all told a really good story, and I think it all kind of piggybacks off of the collision match between FTR and the Golden Elite, because at the end of the match, after Adam Cole and MJF end up winning the match, they're now the next in line to challenge FTR for the AEW Tag Team Championships. I thought this was really fun. I do find MJF and Adam Cole to be so entertaining together. I feel like it was probably about a month ago. We're talking about Adam Cole not being as hot as he should have been, about Adam Cole basically taking basically a backseat to Britt Baker and how Britt Baker was the bigger star. I think Adam Cole has really pulled ahead. I think him working with MJF, and look, you can say whatever you want to say about MJF. I think MJF has all the tools in the world to be fantastic. I think his work in the ring is very good. I think he can do more than what he gives us, but he gives us what he gives us because he's playing a character. I think his comedic style is fantastic. I think his heel persona is great. I think him as a babyface is great. I think MJF has the ability to be one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Like I'm saying it right now. He is incredible. And his work with Adam Cole has been spectacular. I love the segment. I love the match. And I love the fact that we got a little bit of a build for the match coming up against FTR. What did you think about all of this? Because you had the weird thing at the Chinese restaurant, and they looked like they got the double clothesline figured out. A couple times they went for the double clothesline in this match. There was a weird dance off to start this match. Like, it was weird. Like, all of this was weird and it was fun. This was wrestling. This is what pro wrestling is. So it was weird and it was fun. What were your thoughts on it? I thought it was great.
Yeah, it was great. I think everybody popped for the mashup of MJF and Adam Cole song. It was perfect. It was almost as if it was never mashed together. So that was my favorite part. Look, it is a stark contrast for MJF. Obviously, he's done sports entertainment segments, but it's what makes wrestling entertaining. For me, I would do that with other characters. MJF is more of a serious heel type, and I know what he's working with now, and everyone's waiting for how they're going to break up, and it's great because it's great when you know something's going to happen, and it still happen, and you still get to see the story progress, and you're interested still. So that's good. Adam Cole and and it's fair. It's to say, okay, part of being a wrestler is also being a little bit entertaining. Kind of that APA wonky. The two baddest dudes on the planet are playing poker in a fake set and having entertaining segments. I get it. I just think it could be even more entertaining. Like, you could tell, it has a feel to me, at least, when you're doing comedy and having watched comedy, and maybe I'm being critical, it just feels forced. It's not as natural, funny as it is. It's just funny. Obviously, you're eating hot food and stuff like that, but there could be more stuff that could be naturally interjected. And all that means is, being long-winded is they need to just do it more so they're more natural. And it can, like how APA, it wasn't just one poker segment. It was over time with each feud that they had. It got funnier with those that got involved. So the more they do it, the more rhythm they get, and it'll be fun to see when the breakup happens or whatever it is. But for now, let's mash it up, baby. MJF and Adam Cole, baby, are going to have themselves a good time on television, which will continue to elevate their own brands.
All right, so the big thing with the evening on Dynamite, it was built around blood and guts.
Yeah.
And It was interesting because you're getting the debut of Kota Ibushi. You've got Pac added to the Blackpool Combat Club. You also have Takeshita out there. Don Callis was recently attacked in AAA when he was working on a spot with Kenny Omega. Sounds like it was a overzealous former security guard that thought that this was real life. So there was a lot going on. They weaved some of this stuff into the story. And this was a pretty brutal match. You know, there was this spot where I believe Pac went up to the top rope, and one of the Young Bucks were laid out on a table, and he came down with a double foot stomp. That looked like it hurt. A lot of tacks, a lot of glass, a bed of nails. There was a whole lot going on in this match. Thought overall it was a pretty good match. But the match still let me down. And earlier we were talking about basically getting yourself to a spot where you could book a different angle. So the whole Pac and Claudio thing, to me, it just didn't work for who Pac's character is, and it didn't really work with the storytelling that we had in the ring. That felt forced. And I get what they wanted to do because they were trying to set up their match that took place on Friday night with Ring of Honor. So I get it. I just didn't like the way you went about it. I don't think that necessarily worked. I think you could have done something different. So that felt forced. And then you had Takeshita leave the ring. And I didn't like that because that just didn't make any sense to me. And then, again, production issues with AEW. You've got Jon Moxley chained and handcuffed in between both rings. And you've got Wheeler Yuta just getting annihilated, getting choked out with a chain. And there's supposed to be a shot of Jon Moxley throwing in the white towel, basically waving everything off. I didn't understand how the match ended. It took me a minute. And then commentary had to tell me how this match ended for me to understand and get a full grasp of what was going on. Jon Moxley, watching his young pupil, the guy who he has trained to never give up, fight through it all, just getting annihilated and damn near on the verge of death, finally throws the white towel in to save him. That's great storytelling if you show it to me. You did not show it to me. I felt like this Blood and Guts was one of the better ones, but I also feel like it was one of the worst ones that we've had because camera angles, for storylines, there were a couple of things that just kind of felt like the match wasn't botched. Like the guys who were in the ring didn't botch stuff, but it felt like getting us from point A to point B to point C to point D felt wonky, and it didn't feel like it necessarily worked. I think, again, due to production, due to storytelling aspects of this, it kind of left me wanting more and wanting it to be better. While the in-ring work was great, I still wanted something different because it felt less than to me. Did it let you down at all, or did you come away with this like, man, this was great. This is one of the best Blood and Guts we've ever had. I can't wait for another one. Where were you at?
I liked the match. I liked the participants. Everybody did their shit, but the ending you can't fuck up the ending. Everybody was like, "What the fuck is this ending?" You have
especially because that's an important part of it. That's an important part of telling that BCC storyline.
Yeah, and you just can't have the ending be like that. You can't have an ending that everybody's like, "Great match, shitty ending." That brings it down from an A. Without that ending, it would have been an A. The match is a C+. It was good. I respect the performers for doing everything that they did in that match, their sacrifice. But in totality, a wrestling match has a beginning, middle, end, psychology, execution of moves, and ending. And the ending is important. And you can't... Look, Golden Elite, credit to them. I think the right team went over, obviously. I respected everybody for shaking hands and everything. The only thing I didn't like was the footage of Ibushi doing the thumbnail tech spot again. It kind of diminished having that there. So I didn't think that needed to be done. If he did it, he should have stayed down and writhed in pain and to show everybody how tough he is. It just kind of made it look cheap and fake that he just did it and everybody's laughing and clowning around. And I don't know if that was attention seeking or what the hell he was trying to do there, but you kind of diminish the kayfabe a little bit of the dangerous spot with the tax. So for me, I say Blood and Guts. It's great. It has a great purpose with the double cage and everything. But you know what? I would have said, you know what, now, moving forward, you shrink it to 45 minutes and you just throw another match in there. You need one more match on the card, and you don't need to make Blood and Guts an hour long. It's just a little bit too long. 45 minutes is good enough to tell a story. It's great, but yeah, you messed up the ending.
Yeah, it kind of detracted from the entire match, and it was a great match. Instead of basically having a solid 10 for a match, you get like an 8.5 because that ending is so important to that BCC storyline. What was your show of the week? I'm going to give my nod to Dynamite this week. Look, even though that ending was kind of botched, I thought overall it was a very entertaining show, and I was pumped up all Wednesday for Blood and Guts. I was running around work being like, blood and guts, blood and guts. So I was pumped up for it, and it delivered. Again, the ending kind of left me wanting more, but overall I thought it was a really, really good show. Where do you want to give your points?
Yeah, even though the ending was not what you wanted, the rest of the show was still pretty decent, and you're starting to see really moving forward into the summer, a lot of good storylines that you can get back into. Entertainment, MJF, Adam Cole, they did enough to earn the point.
All right, the point will go to Dynamite, and you want some news and notes?
Hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes. What made your list?
So as you talked about in your Slammiversary review, Eric Young made his return. So this WWE star returned, but never fully returned. Eric Young was initially released by WWE in April of 2020. However, he resigned with the company in November of 2022 and just never reappeared on screen. There were always talks about it, but he just never really appeared. According to Fightful Select, Young requested his release from WWE in April of 2023. The request was granted, and the 90-day non-compete clause expired about 2 weeks ago. The report stated that Young did not want to work with Vince McMahon and requested his release after it was clear McMahon would be back involved when WWE's deal with Endeavor was announced. Sources told Fightful that Young didn't want to work with McMahon for moral, creative, and personal reasons. Young ended up showing up at Slammiversary this past weekend, making his return to Impact. This WWE star... So Eric Young explained it for his departure. Again, Young returned to WWE back in November, got his released in April. Responding on Twitter, Young basically said, I signed up for one thing and it turned into something completely different. And personally, professionally, and more importantly for me, morally, I just couldn't work there anymore. If you're a wrestling fan, you know what's going on. And I know that you're a smart guy, Mike. He's referring to Mike Johnson. And you're well aware of what I'm saying, what's going on. It was not super difficult choice for me, to be honest. I know it was a dream come true going back for sure. The contract was fantastic, and all of the other stuff that I was supposed to do on TV, on the TV show, was excellent. But in the end, I wouldn't have to answer to somebody that I'm just not willing to. Again, Fightful Select reported that he did not want to work with Vince McMahon, and the moral, creative, and personal reasons were why he wanted to leave. I think you're seeing a guy who has a pretty good moral compass and was just not willing to sacrifice that to work for the machine in WWE. Now, this past Sunday at a house show, it appears that Bayley may have got injured. Looks like it might have been her knee. In a fatal four-way match with Asuka, Charlotte, and Bianca Belair, Bayley came off the ropes and ran into Asuka. It looked clunky, and it looked like Bayley tried to stop. In doing so, her right knee looked like it buckled underneath her. The referee ended up putting up the X, and medical came to ringside to check on her. Bayley has responded to the injury, showing her ice-packed knees. In her post on Twitter, she stated, I'll be all right. Thanks, everyone. This all seems like these actions were taken for precautionary measures. Not 100% sure if she re-damaged that ACL or if it was just one of those things where it just kind of was like a knee stinger where she just kind of went to stop. It kind of buckled. It hurt. She rolled on it, and they threw the X up. She was on Friday Night SmackDown, and she seemed like she was able to move fine. We'll have to monitor this going forward and kind of see what happens. An update on a major SummerSlam match that could be very interesting. According to Worked Wrestling, even though it was announced as such on Raw, the match between Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar won't be a straightforward singles match, stating, while not announced on WWE Raw, a stipulation will be added to the Brock Lesnar versus Cody Rhodes match at SummerSlam. What is the stipulation? It's unknown at this time. But if I had to guess, I would say it'd probably be a bull rope match, or if Vince signs off on it, I think a dog collar match would be spectacular. And that's going to do it for this week's news and notes, my brother.
Man, what a week. Trying to pack it all into an hour segment is great. We got it done, man. It was such a good week. Lots of good things. AEW, WWE, Impact. Lots of great things going on. We didn't even touch on New Japan. Will Ospreay always doing his thing. Everything going on in the world of professional wrestling right now is hot, leading into SummerSlam. And boy, is it going to be a hot couple weeks as we realize the eyes of the professional wrestling world are going to come to Detroit, Ford Field. Does Dan Campbell make an appearance? What's going on with Logan Paul? How's that going to look? I think Logan Paul, Ricochet could try and do some wild-ass shit at Ford Field. Maybe they take it to the back. Maybe some Lions players. Maybe Aiden Hutchinson does a powerbomb. Some weird, crazy-ass shit could go down. Or maybe you involve the Pistons and everything going on. We'll see what's going on there. Maybe Darren McCarty. I don't know. Maybe you have a little bit of a crossover situation. So it's all crazy now in the world of wrestling, and it's always fun to break it all down with my guy, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. Make sure you like and subscribe anywhere you listen to your favorite audio content. Just type in Detroit Sports Podcast, and our content will find you. Great 2 weeks ahead. You don't want to miss out on anything that Doc and Jock say in the world of wrestling. You want to be in the know. You want to listen and enjoy great bold takes. Tune in every single weekend to the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast.